These beautiful beaches belie a quiet economic revolution.
What percentage of your customers would you say pay in Bitcoin?
Bitcoin right now, it's about 60 to 70%.
This week, we report from El Salvador, where a visionary president and a landmark economic policy making Bitcoin legal tender are attracting the world's attention. Amid the misinformation wars during the COVID epidemic, alternative treatments became targets.
And the FDA was falsely implying this is horse medicine that you people are taking, which is not true.
It was a hit job on Ivermectin. So we sued them, myself and two other doctors, and we actually won. The FDA backed down, and they had to remove their misinformation from the website.
We take another look at Ivermectin and the effort to allow over-the-counter access.
Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe.
President Trump issues a warning at the UN, one that's been consistent since the beginning of his political pursuits.
So we're going to take 200,000 people. We have no idea who they are. They have no credentials. They have no information on these people. I think we're nuts.
This week, a look at 10 years and 2 terms and how the president's actions on illegal immigration are changing the world. Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. 15 years ago, almost nobody had heard of Bitcoin. Now it's a frequent topic of global debate. Today we head to the tiny Central American nation of El Salvador that's turning heads worldwide, sparking hope and controversy and a fierce U.S. discussion about the future of money. Could El Salvador's gamble reshape global finance? And what about America's economic edge?
We got a small mill, sample mill right there.
Jorge Cruz Rubio runs Chorrito Specialty Bit Cafe Roasters, a coffee shop featuring his homegrown Salvadoran blends.
Wonderful coffee. This is Pacas semi-washed.
He also owns a mobile Bit Cafe truck.
What percentage of your customers would you say pay in Bitcoin?
Bitcoin right now, it's about 60 to 6 or to 7. Here at this precise location where we are.
60 to 70%.
60 to 70%, of which a good 40% are international folks visiting El Salvador or relocating to El Salvador.
He says his businesses and 3 farms are all in on the promise of Bitcoin. No bank fees, no middleman, no taxes, no regulation.
Okay.
Making his coffee taste like freedom.
People will see if Chorrito can do it with this little streetcar, anybody else can, and you don't need a bank. This is where you bypass American Express, Visa, MasterCard.
And the fees.
And the fees.
Few would have predicted that El Salvador, a country emerging from decades of civil war and gang violence, would be first to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. President Bukele made the announcement in Miami in 2021.
Next week, I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador.
He promised his country that Bitcoin would provide a path to economic independence while attracting foreign investment and tourism. A key challenge, how to get the people back home, where 70% don't even use a bank, to adopt an e-currency few fully understand. The answer starts up this path, leading to the modest headquarters of El Salvador's National Bitcoin Office.
So what he did by making Bitcoin legal tender is he took all the world's media and they focused right on little El Salvador.
Stacey Herbert and Max Kaiser, a transplanted American couple, lead El Salvador's Bitcoin push. They've promoted Bitcoin as the smart bet since it was worth 30 cents in 2010. Now one coin has soared as high as $122,000.
El Salvador was pretty much a failed state before President Bukele took office in 2019. So into this mix comes President Bukele. And he promised the people that where El Salvador is going is to the place we want to be. We don't want to be a failed state. We want to be a great country. And that's where we're headed in El Salvador.
And I hate to be the bearer of nasty truths, but there will be a time when the U.S. government and these various governments come to Bitcoiners with their begging bowl, hoping for a bailout. And all they can do is print money. And when you print money, it makes our Bitcoin worth more. So go ahead, print all the money you want. You're just making us fabulously wealthy and completely individually sovereign and completely not tied to you in any way, shape, or form.
An early PR strategy focused on this sun-drenched beach in El Salvador, where surfers enjoy world-class waves and vendors post signs welcoming payment with Bitcoin. El Sante is called Bitcoin Beach. Local businesses adopted the currency early on, making this, in some respects, the heart of El Salvador's Bitcoin experiment. It did fuel a tourism boom. Last year, this country with just 6 million residents boasted 3.9 million visitors, 43% of them from the U.S., drawn by the new publicity and curiosity. El Salvador has taken the lead, but other countries are flirting with Bitcoin. An effort to adopt Bitcoin in the Central African Republic failed, but its use is expanding in other African nations. The governments of Bhutan, the UK, Ukraine, and Iran are holding billions in Bitcoin. A dozen other countries are eyeing crypto reserves. Meantime, China has banned Bitcoin use.
Hello, Bitcoiners. Thank you.
As for the U.S., in 2021, President Trump called Bitcoin a scam, but has since embraced it as part of his pro-crypto agenda, pledging to make the U.S. a global leader. In March, he established a strategic Bitcoin reserve that now holds more than $21 billion in Bitcoin. During our visit to El Salvador, he signed a new law establishing rules for stablecoin, another kind of electronic currency.
Have you spoken with anybody in the Trump orbit or President Trump himself about a strategy, or has anyone reached out to you?
We recently met with the executive director of the crypto for President Trump. I have very high hopes for the direction that the United States is going, should, of course, any of the opposition not prevent economic liberty from thriving in the United States.
For all the hype, there are many critics.
Government gave away a lot of public money to invest in this project, and this project failed.
Lawmaker Claudia Ortiz is a lead opposition voice in El Salvador.
Bitcoin as like a novelty that attracts some people to El Salvador to witness how was this experiment going on, how did it work. I think that's over, right? Many tourists came and they actually realized that it wasn't that easy to buy everything with Bitcoin. So actually it didn't work well.
El Salvador's Bitcoin bet has also drawn pushback from the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. The global financial aid group held back crucial loans after the country adopted Bitcoin, calling it risky. Critics called it pressure to favor traditional banking. In February, they struck a $1.4 billion bailout deal, but only after El Salvador agreed to halt Bitcoin buys for more than 3 years and make other concessions to curb its crypto ambitions.
A lot of people criticized the strategy of using Bitcoin as an official currency. They reported that the president here has stepped back from or backed off of or stepping back from Bitcoin. What do you say about that?
I run the National Bitcoin Office for President Bukele, and I can tell you for 100% that we have not backed off Bitcoin in any way. We have the world's first strategic Bitcoin reserve. We're in the top 7 countries in the world with Bitcoin holdings. This is from a country that was a failed state only 5-6 years ago. That's how you can transform that fast with Bitcoin. It's just ridiculous to think anybody who hasn't been here to El Salvador would have any commentary to make about what we're doing with Bitcoin when they barely understand Bitcoin itself.
If success is measured by how many use Bitcoin and how many businesses accept it, then El Salvador's Bitcoin experiment has achieved modest gains. One survey pegged public usage at just 8% last year. For Rubio, it's not about mass adoption. Bitcoin is a symbol of freedom from banks and government oversight. He pays this employee in Bitcoin, no income taxes that way, offers discounts to Bitcoin users, and is teaching his peers how to use it.
Okay.
Now I'm proud to say that I'm able to influence my providers. For example, the people who bring me the water, if they want me to purchase water from them, they have to accept Bitcoin. The people who sell me different items, the mugs, anything, has to accept Bitcoin.
Not everyone's riding the wave, but for Bitcoin backers, the rest of the world faces a choice: join the financial revolution or risk getting wiped out.
I think it was Safdien Ammous who wrote the Bitcoin Standard, who said Bitcoin is like gunpowder. So once gunpowder came around, either you adopted it or you were adopted by countries who adopted it.
Yes.
It's that much of a defining change in global geopolitics. So either you've got it or you're going to be relegated to the dustbin of history.
Based on today's value, it's estimated El Salvador's Bitcoin investment has nearly tripled in value. Coming up on Full Measure, a growing push to make Ivermectin over the counter. Florida just announced $60 million to explore generics like Ivermectin to fight cancer. Right now, generics don't promise big profits, so their uses may go unstudied and overlooked. Ivermectin, long used safely in people for parasites, was thrust into the spotlight when many doctors said it worked against COVID. The FDA began a campaign to call it dangerous. Houston Dr. Mary Talley Bowden beat the FDA in court and is now part of a growing push to make Ivermectin available without a prescription. In 2021, the FDA was heavily promoting the upcoming COVID vaccine and discouraging prevention or treatment with medicine like Ivermectin. Despite Ivermectin's decades-long safety record and 2015 Nobel Prize for combating parasitic diseases, the FDA launched a public campaign against it. That included the FDA's infamous "You are not a horse, you are not a cow" tweet. And the FDA was falsely implying this is horse medicine that you people are taking, which is not true.
Exactly. They branded it as horse medicine. It was a hit job on Ivermectin. So we sued them, myself and two other doctors. All three of us just got pummeled for our stance on Ivermectin professionally with the boards and the public. And we actually won. The FDA backed down, and they had to remove their misinformation from the website, and they had to remove the tweet. But
years later,
it's still, I mean, I'm still having a hard time getting my patients. I can't, if I send a prescription to Walgreens for Ivermectin, there's probably a 75% chance they're not going to fill it. And that's 4 years later.
What have we learned about Ivermectin in this time period?
So there are now 105 studies supporting the efficacy of Ivermectin for COVID. No drug is 100% effective, and what I would do is combine it with other medications depending on risk factors and severity of disease. But all in all, it shows that basically the earlier you start using it, the more efficacious. But even when used late in the game, even the second week of the illness in COVID is when people really got sick, and that was this massive inflammatory response, less so from the actual virus, it was the inflammatory response. But even in those late stages, it worked, it helped. Anywhere from 30 to 40% decrease in intubation and mortality. And it's so safe.
Are there studies that look at it for preventive?
Yes, so that's actually, if you go to this, the meta-analysis of the data, the earlier you use it, even for prevention is actually the best outcome. But what we're seeing now, COVID is not life-threatening. I don't worry about my patients. Like I did used to worry about my patients. I don't worry about anybody now that gets COVID. And yeah, I mean, I don't discourage people from taking ivermectin, but I'm not like, yeah, you need to take it for prevention at this point.
What is the status of over-the-counter efforts in states? And are you involved in some sort of effort to try to lobby the states to do this in the absence of action from the federal government?
17 states filed bills this last session to make it over the counter, and 4 have been successful. So Tennessee was the first in 2022. Most recently was Louisiana, but Idaho and Arkansas are also in there. Problem is, what I'm hearing from people, at least on X, is that even though they are legally allowed to sell it over the counter, you've got to find a willing pharmacist, and that's problematic sometimes. I encourage other doctors, maybe open up your mind up a little bit, do a little of your own research. And yes, you can do something about a virus early. And even ivermectin can be used for other viruses. It has 20 mechanisms of action. It's anti-inflammatory, so even if you're not treating the virus, you can treat inflammation with it, and it's super safe.
In June, American frontline doctors filed a citizen petition to make ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine over-the-counter federally, but there's been no answer. Ahead on Full Measure, President Trump calls out Europe on its illegal immigration crisis. In his recent speech to the United Nations, President Trump reiterated his long-standing warning about the continued threat of unchecked illegal immigration. It's an issue that launched his unlikely campaign and propelled him to a first and then a second term in the White House. Full Measure has been covering America and Europe's crises, the parallels, and how they've driven politics for more than a decade.
Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained.
Perhaps more than any other singular issue, illegal immigration has defined President Trump's campaigns and terms in office, a topic he addressed in my first interview with him in 2015, when he was a largely ridiculed candidate for the nation's highest office, given little to no chance of winning.
I think it's insanity to take 200,000 people. When you take 200,000 people, it's very hard to do anything about it. Problem, we don't know who they are. I mean, this could be a ISIS army.
So how many refugees should we take?
Well, certainly from Syria, I would take none.
When elected in 2016, President Trump put promise to action, with a wall to stop the swarm across America's southern border, stalled by court challenges until near the end of his term.
How tall is that?
And this is 30 feet tall. Before that, we virtually had no physical barrier at the border, so you can imagine it was quite chaotic at times right on the border. In fact, it was a situation where not a whole lot of law and order existed.
What many Americans didn't know is that illegal immigration was an equally serious, if not worse, crisis in Europe, launching political tidal waves. In Britain, the overflow, culture clashes, and terrorist attacks by illegal immigrants prompted Brexit, the UK's exit from the European Union.
And they got quite scared, not because they're intolerant of immigration, because this is an extremely tolerant country when it comes to immigration, but because it was pressing down on their wages. We hadn't made the right plans in terms of housing, the health service, schools.
Brexit was just the beginning of a populist rise that would reshape European politics beyond Great Britain. We've reported from numerous countries where the immigration crisis became a driving issue for change. Right now, we're in Greek waters, but back there where those lights are, that's Turkey. At its closest point, it's just a couple of miles away from Greece, and we're sitting in a hot spot for picking up refugees.
Look at this side.
Where do you want to go?
I want to go to Germany.
By June of 2024, Germany was hosting 3.5 million refugees. This refugee center in Berlin, Germany, is housed in an old hospital complex. Where are they coming in from?
Well, the asylum seekers
arrive here, mostly from Moldova, Republic of Moldova, which is a neighboring state to Ukraine, Georgia, which is also a neighbor of Russia, and then Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, African countries like Sudan, Ethiopia, the whole world.
Poland's President Andrzej Duda told me Russia has been trafficking multitudes of people to create instability in his nation.
If someone comes over to Poland in the false perception that one will stay here and get everything for free and will have a better life without working, well, we do not agree to such arrivals. No, if you want to live among us, work. You want to live among us, get yourself moving and do some work, earn some money. This is as simple as that.
The current immigration-driven populist rise includes Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni.
Thousands of migrants allowed to enter without permission, who end up crowding out the slums of our towns and cities, undercutting the salaries of our own workers, and in many instances engaging in crime.
Back in the U.S., Trump's second term has already brought quick and dramatic results on America's southern border.
I would say the border has to be, very early in this administration, the single most tangible, quick impact people saw.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with how that's going so far?
Yeah, I think they're doing an incredible job, and it's a tough job, too. We have 99% improvement from Biden. So we have now the best border we've ever had, and we did that in a period of 5 weeks. Pretty amazing, actually.
In the first year of his second term, President Trump is still delivering on a promise first made a decade ago and sticking by his guns on a message that's only gained in global popularity, if not among all the leaders, certainly among many citizens.
And while we will always have a big heart for places and people that are struggling and truly compassionate, answers will be given. We have to solve the problem, and we have to solve it in their countries, not create new problems in our countries.
In President Trump's second term, illegal crossings from Mexico have fallen to historic lows. After a break, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Coming up next week on Full Measure, one man's fight against a flesh-eating disease exposed remarkable flaws in America's process for finding crucial medical treatments.
The pills that they were giving me, dozens upon dozens of antibiotic courses, IV antibiotics at one point, the surgeries, the scraping, the cutting, nothing was working.
How the cure he invented for himself could help millions. Next week on Full Measure. Until then, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable. Thanks for watching. I'm Sharyl Attkisson.